Have you ever had a branding project totally derail halfway through just because you found out some new information from your client that you really wish you would have known from the beginning? Hi creatives, welcome back to Agency Academy. My name is Malin and today we're going to talk about different questions that you can ask in your discovery meeting for branding projects to make sure that you're never stuck in a frustrating situation that gives you scope creep or other problems that you might have. I've had clients change their company name halfway through the concepting phase. I've had them change who their customers are, or just maybe come up with a different person who is going to make decisions. And all these things can really make it difficult for you. It takes a lot of time to make changes, and also it can be quite expensive. You might have to turn down other projects in order to finish this one and make all those changes. I think it's our responsibility as creatives to help our clients think about a lot of these things that can come up. So these are the questions I think you should ask in any discovery meeting. Who makes decisions? So sometimes when you're working with especially smaller clients, you might be working directly with the founder. And in that case, it's great because they're there for every meeting. They get insight into your mood boarding, your research, all that work that goes into it. But if you're working with a bigger client or a client that has delegated this work to, let's say, someone in their marketing department, then it might be that the person you're talking to, presenting all your ideas, showing all your great mood boards and all of this work, might not be the same person who's making decisions. And we all know that sending a presentation in a PDF that someone is going to skim through quickly is not the same thing as sitting there, hearing all of your arguments, hearing all of your reasoning and research behind something. So it's really important that the right people are in the room when you're presenting work. So I think you can do this two ways. Either you can insist that the person who's making the decision is always going to be in the room for all the design meetings. Or alternatively, you can make a decision together with the person you're working with to see how they can present the work to their employer to make sure they're getting across all the information. If this is the case, I think it's also a really good idea for you to build in a lot of information and explanations in your presentation. So don't just put the work, make sure you're also putting like explanations, and they're not long, but like really to the point explaining why you made each decision. This helps bridge that gap between what was said in the meeting and what they might just initially see and think when they look at the page. Next up is what parts of their current brand, if they have one, are non-negotiable to change, or what do they really want to change? So in some cases, I might have worked on a concept and I didn't ask this question. And then I realized, okay, actually all of their trucks are currently orange and they're not looking to change that because that costs a lot of money. So the orange has to be a brand color that's very prominent or present. And so I've had to completely change my design direction because that was information I didn't have. So in some cases, when you're working on a brand, it might be that they're willing to tweak the logo a little, but they want the logo to be the same, but they want a new visual language. Or like I said, maybe the color should stay. So I think it's really good to try to get to the bottom before you start designing of what is non-negotiable. What is something they hate? What is something that has to stay? It's great to bring up examples of things so you can specifically ask, what about your company name? What about your product names? What about the colors that you use? Are you changing your website design? All these things can help guide you to make sure you have all the information before you start. And this kind of leads us into a question, which is how will a brand be rolled out? So in some cases, brands like to roll everything out all at once, meaning like the website should be completely redesigned at the same time. All their merchandise should be changed. So this is important to know because in some cases, brands might not be able to do that, or maybe it's a smaller company and they're just looking to change their core branding, but they're not looking to change the website just yet. And so that might affect how much they are willing to change it. So it both helps you see what to do, and it also helps you assemble a team that can help you out. Or if you have those services, it's a great way to upsell. This next one has cost me some money, so it's a good one to keep in mind. And that is, do they have a budget for photography or typefaces or things like that? So you might have a license to, let's say, stock sites, or you might have a license to Adobe Typekit, but sometimes your client might not have a license to actually buy those things. And so in some cases, you're able to hand over the license that you have access to. But in some cases, especially for typefaces, if you're using a typeface for something else than the logo, let's say the type they're going to be using on their website or something like that, then they have to purchase a license. So it's really good to know these things ahead of time so that you can plan and say, okay, if they don't have a budget for it and I don't think they have a budget to put it together with a kind of branding package, then you can say, okay, let's only use Google typefaces, or let's only use free alternatives. And so this is something that, sometimes I've designed something, I love it so much, it's like $50 to buy the typeface, and I say, okay, I'll eat the cost to make sure the brand is going to look as good as it could be. But I shouldn't be eating that cost. I should be making sure that client has that budget to start with. Next step is to ask why they are creating this new brand. So kind of regardless if it's a new brand or something that is a rebrand, there must be a reason, something that triggered them to want to reach out to you and start this project. And sometimes when we ask clients, they might say, oh, we need to look more professional, or we need to have a good image outwards, which is a good starting point, but it's too vague. So once they say something like that, you have to start digging more. What is it that's not working? Are you feeling like you're maybe looking too similar to your competitors, or do you feel like your customers are not understanding what your brand is about, your values, things like that? Because once we know those things, we're actually able to put up different milestones and different goals that the brand should accomplish. So instead of us saying when we're presenting the work, here's a great brand, I've created it and it's going to be a great fit for you, and kind of hoping that your expertise is enough to convince them, we can instead say, okay, we said in our discovery that this brand is feeling too young for your target audience. Here are the ways I've addressed that. I have changed the typeface this way. I've changed the color palette. I've changed the photography to match your target audience. So all these things that we can set as goals, it helps us make the design process easier, but also makes the pitching process of the different concepts a lot easier when you're working with your clients. If you want to further improve your discovery process, I think there's a really great tool called Olibrief. I made a whole video about how to use Olibrief to create joint briefs with your client. So if you want to go check that video out, I'm going to put it here on the screen. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your design projects and see you next time.